Hello, my name is Brian Angulo, and I'll be presenting on recycling used lead acid batteries and why this is an important issue to care about today. So this is a brief table of contents of what I'll be discussing in this presentation. First, I'm going to discuss the issue and the associated health risks. Next, I'll be discussing some approaches from professionals that are not involved in the public health or medical field about how to handle the recycling of used lead acid batteries. And finally, I'm going to be discussing an assessment of the approaches and a brief conclusion. So to discuss the issue, according to a report from UNICEF, over 900,000 premature deaths per year are attributed to lead exposures, and juvenile delinquency, violence, and crime have all been associated with preschool lead exposure. And so what does this have to do with the recycling of lead acid batteries? Well, one of the most concerning sources of lead exposure is the unsound recycling of used lead acid batteries, or ULABs, most of which are found in cars, trucks, and other vehicles. Recycling activities are often conducted in informal, unlicensed, and frequently illegal open-air operations close to homes and schools. Such an operation can be seen in the image to the right, which is in Agbogbloshie, Ghana, where you can see workers really picking up materials from the ground. Among them is ULABs. And so lead-based batteries are a vital component in the 1 billion petrol and diesel vehicles worldwide, as well as for critical stationary applications and telecommunication systems. In fact, since 2000, the number of new vehicles in low and middle income countries has more than tripled. So as you can see, this is a growing issue. And according to the World Lead Fact Book by the International Lead and Zinc Study Group, about 85% of all lead used goes to produce lead acid batteries. The vast majority of this lead comes from recycled automobile batteries. However, lead from informal secondary recycling also makes its way into products beyond vehicle batteries, such as in lead-based pottery glazes and spices. And so to really bring in some input from professionals, first I spoke about this issue with August, who is a child care counselor. And after going over the issue and some examples of how this impacts children, he suggested that instead of having people individually recycle the lead acid batteries, there should be a formalized institution that's established by the government to not only give locals jobs to recycle the batteries, and so this wouldn't disrupt the lifestyle of the locals, but to also give them proper equipment and training. He admits that it may be difficult to formalize such labor, especially for remote communities with which the local government has difficulty reaching due to resource constraints. Thus, he emphasizes leveraging NGOs and public-private partnerships to decentralize the manner in which local communities can gain knowledge about the issues and risks to health with recycling ULABs. Next, I discussed with Pedro, who is a data engineer, about this issue, and he emphasized that upper income countries should take measures to prevent the accumulation of ULABs in countries that don't have the same level of resources to handle the issue. He suggested that car shops and dealers should recycle these batteries with supervision of the DMV or another state or government agency, and the recycling should be done in specialized plants where they handle the process in a safe and non-polluting manner. He says, quote, that they shouldn't ship those batteries pollutants to poor countries that don't have the resources or technology to handle the recycling properly. I understand that the recycling in a safe manner would probably be expensive, but there should be some way to finance it without adding more economic burden to the population. Maybe they could add a small extra tax for every car sold if the government cannot cover the functioning of the recycling plants, or the car company should shoulder the cost and management of those plants. In that manner, they will save money in the production of new batteries, since they could reuse some of the components slash materials. End quote. And so, as we can see, Pedro's really suggesting that upper middle income countries that maybe ship their e-waste to low and middle income countries, that these upper income countries should shoulder some responsibility for the recycling of ULABs. Lastly, I discussed the issue with Rose, who is a management consultant, and she suggested that national government leadership should do their best to prioritize the issue by outlining the risks and drawing up an action plan for their specific population. Given that the issue of unsafe ULABs occurs across a variety of contexts, it will be difficult to have a one-size-fits-all approach. Thus, having a localized approach driven by those who are most impacted by the threat will ensure that any intervention is effective and specific. And so here's a summary chart of the various approaches that were discussed. From these approaches, it's evident that the issue of unsafe ULAB recycling falls on the global community to address. China's recent approach to provide more financial support and implement a best available technology guide to promote the advanced clean processing of ULABs is a promising example for low and middle income countries that are struggling with the management of ULABs. Similarly, each country should adopt a set of action steps which reflect the scale of the risks to the communities under their protection. And for those countries where unsafe ULAB recycling does not pose a significant health threat, these countries should have the sense of responsibility to understand how they may be contributing to the scale and proliferation of the issue. And to close, here are my references. Thank you so much.